Discover how one incredible act by a black maid transformed 5 billionaire kids' lives forever. Gloria wiped her hands on her apron, a soft sigh escaping her lips as she glanced out of the penthouse window. The sprawling city below pulsed with life, yet her own world felt stifling within those walls of luxury. Cleaning billionaire Thomas Bentley's opulent abode from sunrise to dusk had become a routine. Her daughter Jamia's future brightened her weary days, but the shadows of self-doubt clouded her aspirations. A college degree had seemed attainable until fate dealt her a bitter hand. Her husband vanished years ago without a trace, leaving behind an ache of betrayal that twisted in her gut. What was she doing here? She had to provide for Jamia, yet the sneers of self-condemnation echoed through her mind, mocking her ambition. Did she really believe she belonged in this world of wealth? Each day, she witnessed the Bentley children reveling in their privilege, while she scrubbed the floors, longing to show Jamia that education could open doors. But the weight of financial struggles pressed down on her like the unrelenting New York skyline. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As she prepared dinner one evening, the aroma of her homemade chicken stew filled their small kitchen, transforming the cramped space into a warm refuge. Yet doubt lingered like smoke in the air. What was she teaching Jamia? Perseverance through poverty. The battle between pride and shame crept into her consciousness, but while Jamia saw hope in her mother's determination, Gloria wrestled with despair. The idea of going back to school felt just that, an idea, a shadow of a dream. At that moment, the unexpected call from Thomas Bentley seeped into her life, leading to an agreement to let his children spend time with her and Jamia. What began as an arrangement of convenience unleashed her fears about being judged. She stood at the intersection of two worlds, the glittering facade of the Bentley empire and her own humble home. Would they laugh at her? Would Thomas's kids think of her as less? When they first arrived, Gloria's heart raced, her palms sweaty with anxiety. Little did she know that beneath the polished surfaces of privilege lay vulnerability, emotions she could relate to, hidden beneath the surface. Teaching them the lessons that transcended wealth felt like a lifeline, and yet fear bubbled beneath, a fear that her past would echo through their laughter, dragging her back to the anguish of betrayal. Just as she found strength in mentoring them, the newfound bond faced scrutiny. Gloria realized that every triumph brought with it the potential for risk. What if Thomas discovered their connection and pushed them away? Her muscles tensed at the thought, but that fear felt paralyzing. What if she failed? What if, within these delicate moments of teaching, she led them astray? As tension crackled in the air, the diverging paths of their lives loomed large. The question hung, tantalizing yet heavy: would they be willing to open their minds to her world and, in turn, face the truth about privilege, pain, and resilience? The whisper of hope clashed against the throbbing pulse of uncertainty, leaving Gloria confrontation ready, her voice unyielding as she prepared to challenge the dynamics of their worlds forever. Gloria stood at the kitchen counter, stirring the pot of chicken stew in a mechanical rhythm, lost in thought. The Bentley children's laughter echoed in her mind, intertwining with her unease. She had always believed in the importance of opening minds, but how could she inspire them when she felt so small in her own skin? The clattering of pots brought her back to the present, but her heart remained heavy with uncertainty. As they gathered around the table, the ambience was filled with warmth. For a brief moment, Gloria allowed herself to smile at the familial scene. The children, with their varying degrees of privilege, seemed genuine in their engagement. They were eager to share stories, and their curiosity ignited a flicker of hope within her. Yet, she couldn't shake the worry gnawing at her. Would they ever truly understand her struggles? Would they ever see beyond the glimmering surface of wealth? "Can we help, Ms. Gloria?" chirped Ava, the youngest Bentley, her wide eyes brimming with enthusiasm. Later, she caught the gaze of the others, seeking their approval. Of course. Gloria responded, a hint of surprise coloring her voice. Her instincts nudged her to let them participate, even if the notion startled her. As they chopped vegetables and stirred the stew, laughter punctuated the air, and for the first time in a long while, Gloria felt a connection blooming. But as she watched them fumble playfully with the kitchen tools, the previous unease slowly shifted to a realization: beneath their cushioned lives, struggles existed. Did these kids grapple with the same fears she did? Did they ever doubt their worth or battle expectations created by wealth? The thought propelled her curiosity. Exploring their vulnerabilities could unveil common ground. As dinner progressed, she posed a question cloaked in lightness: what is your biggest fear? The table went quiet, forks halfway to mouths. Curiosity turned to hesitation, as if the inquiry sliced through their bubble of privilege. Finally, Ethan, the oldest, broke the silence. I'm scared of disappointing my dad, he said, his voice lacking its usual bravado. Slowly, each child revealed their own weighty insecurities, the pressures of perfection, the suffocating ambitions pushed upon them by their parents. In response, Gloria felt a spark awaken inside her, a memory resurfacing from the depths of her own past. She had once feared disappointing her own father, who had dreams that danced on the fringes of reality. Perhaps this was it, this was their bridge. When they shared deep vulnerabilities, they crossed the barriers that separated their worlds. What if we made a pact? Gloria suggested with newfound determination, her heart racing. We help each other face our fears. The children's eyes widened, surprised yet intrigued at her daring proposal. An idea was blossoming, one that could redefine their relationships. That night, Gloria lay awake, mulling over the evening's events. Motherhood and aspiration collided within her, igniting a decision latent in the background. She would not teach them merely about practical skills, she would guide them in recognizing their fears and finding strength in vulnerability. Yet, lingering questions prevented sleep from claiming her. What if her methods clashed with the understanding of their parents? What if Thomas discovered her intentions and forbade it, viewing their exchange as a dilution of privilege? The scenario played out like a film reel, its uncertainty gripping her tightly with anxiety. The following day loomed large with potential yet fraught with risk. Would she step into the unknown to redefine her role, embracing both her commitment to Jamia and her newfound connection with the Bentley kids? Before her mind could fully process, the thought emerged, bold and electrifying: what if embracing this new identity ultimately offered the path toward her own dreams? And that very idea clawed at her resolve. What would it take for her to confront the looming uncertainties head-on? The time had come to face the journey ahead. Gloria took a deep breath as dawn crept over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and pink. The quiet house felt heavy, vibrating with the possibilities that lay ahead. A part of her longed to retreat, to hide behind the comfort of predictability, but the exhilaration of the previous night's revelations would not let her. Today, she would take the first tentative steps toward change. She arrived at the Bentley household earlier than usual, a surge of adrenaline pushing her through the front door. The children were still waking up, their voices a soft murmur. As they trickled into the kitchen, still bleary-eyed, Gloria felt a familiar twinge of nervousness. She had prepared a simple breakfast, but her mind was racing with thoughts of the pact she hoped to establish. "Good morning, everyone," she greeted, forcing enthusiasm into her tone. The children mumbled their responses, still shaking off sleep. "Today, I want to talk about something important before we get into our usual routine." Ava, the youngest, was the first to perk up. "What is it, Miss Gloria?" Gloria's heart fluttered. She was about to unveil a new layer of engagement that could change everything. "I've been thinking about the pact we mentioned last night. What if we started a fear-sharing circle?" The question landed with unexpected gravity. The children exchanged glances, uncertainty clouding their faces. Ethan, however, seemed curious. "Like a book club but for fears?" "Exactly," Gloria said, her confidence growing as she grasped the moment. "We could meet every week to share one fear, big or small. It'll be a safe space, a sanctuary. By voicing them, we tackle our anxieties together." The silence felt deafening until Ethan hesitantly nodded. "Well, I guess I could try." His voice was cautious, but the determination in his eyes ignited a flicker of hope in Gloria. Within minutes, agreement spread through the group like a wave. With each nod and murmur of acceptance, Gloria's apprehensions began to dissolve. She quickly outlined the structure of their first session, promising each child an equal chance to share without judgment. Yet, beneath her hopeful exterior, questions simmered. Was she prepared to divulge her fears? Could she bare her soul to these children, exposing her vulnerabilities as they did? As the day unfolded, Gloria guided the children through their chores, her mind drifting to what she would share. After all, a leader must be vulnerable. She needed to set an example. By revealing her own struggles, a balancing act of aspiration and fear, she could reinforce the deep-rooted bonds they established. When evening came, the sun fading into a dusky backdrop, Gloria gathered them in their favorite corner of the yard. The atmosphere crackled with anticipation, every child fidgeting as they took their seats on the grass. She could feel her heart thudding loudly in her chest, excitement laced with trepidation. "Okay, everyone," she began, her voice steady despite the rapid fire of her thoughts. "Who wants to go first?" Ethan raised his hand. "I can try." The raw resolve in his tone cracked like a tiny ember. At that moment, it struck Gloria how pivotal this pact could become, not just for them, but for her too. As Ethan started to speak, sharing his fear of disappointing his father, Gloria held her breath. By leaning into this moment, she was not only supporting their growth but unearthing her own transformative journey. The children took turns, revealing their fears with courage that surprised Gloria. Little by little, Gloria's anxiety morphed into exhilaration. Here they were, forging a bond through shared vulnerability. It was profound, a dynamic shift that could redefine their interactions. When it came to her turn, Gloria felt the urge to back down, yet she fought it fiercely. "One of my greatest fears is feeling inadequate," she confessed, her heart racing. "I worry I won't be able to provide the guidance you need." The collective silence that followed felt heavy but charged with empathy. As the session came to a close, Gloria caught a glimpse of what lay ahead. Tomorrow's interactions would not just be superficial anymore, they had crossed an unspoken threshold into something deeper. But just as the seeds of connection began to take root, she was challenged with a thought: would Thomas notice this change? What if he resented her newfound confidence? The conversation lingered like an uninvited guest. With a spark of anticipation and fear, Gloria acknowledged the impending storm of confrontation looming on her horizon. Would it reinforce her transformation, or would it threaten everything she had built? The evening ended with a haunting question that echoed through her mind: was she ready to fight for this new path she'd begun to forge? Gloria rose the next morning with a renewed sense of purpose coursing through her veins. The sun filtered softly through the sheer curtains, its light whispering promises of a fresh start. But the exhilaration was soon eclipsed by doubt as memories of the evening before replayed in her mind. The children had shown bravery, now the mantle of leadership felt heavier. As she arrived at the Bentley household, an all too familiar sense of anticipation coiled in her stomach. The children were not just the same faces she had seen day in and day out, they were now allies in a shared venture, a responsibility she had never before embraced. Each interaction, each conversation felt laden with possibility. "Morning, Miss Gloria." Ava perked up, her energy radiating warmth. "Can we do our fear circle now? I want to share mine." Gloria's heart leaped. The genuine excitement in the young girl's eyes served as a lifeline. This was exactly what she hoped for, a space where the children felt safe to explore their vulnerabilities. "Absolutely," she responded, her voice steadier than she felt. They settled on the living room floor, forming a circle with their legs crossed. Gloria allowed a moment of silence to envelop them, each child reflecting on what they would share. She sensed their collective energy, the anticipation mixed with hidden fears, the tension ready to burst forth. "Today, I want to start," Gloria declared, surprising even herself. "I think it's important for you to know that facing fear is a journey we all share, no matter how old or young we are." As she spoke, she felt layers of apprehension lifting off her shoulders. "I fear that sometimes I don't know if I'm doing enough for you, or if my guidance is right. I worry about letting you down." The children nodded, mirroring her sincerity. Ethan looked at her with a newfound respect. Their previous sharing had opened doors to deeper understanding. Here was the moment Gloria realized that sharing her fears was not a weakness but a bridge to solidarity. One by one, the children opened up, revealing their insecurities. Ava feared being forgotten by her friends, Ethan worried about being overshadowed, and Mason tagged along with a worry about not being brave enough. Listening to their outpouring of thoughts, Gloria absorbed each confession as if they were pieces of a puzzle, constructing a clearer picture of their unfamiliar inner worlds. As they shared, Gloria felt the ripple effects of their courage, their vulnerability generating a profound shift in the air around them. Each revelation fortified her role, validating her existence in their lives not merely as a caretaker, but as a mentor, a beacon of wisdom. But, even amid their growth, her thoughts danced back to Thomas. Would he see the children blossoming? Would it provoke jealousy or resentment? Struggling with this contemplation, Gloria knew that her transformation was intertwined with the threads of their collective experiences. Each laugh, each tear, brought her into sharper focus. "The next step in our journey is to confront these fears," she encouraged, igniting a spark of determination within herself. "What if we create a plan to tackle them? We can start with small goals that lead us to overcoming these anxieties." The room erupted with enthusiasm. The children's eyes shone bright as they discussed ways to achieve their goals, their concerns metamorphosing into actionable steps. Gloria felt a surge of gratitude. The pact transcended mere words. It was becoming an empowering manifesto for growth. As the session concluded, Gloria looked around at the gleaming faces of the children, a heartwarming sense of connection blooming within her. Yet, in the back of her mind loomed the nagging worry. What would happen when Thomas inevitably voiced his concerns? Would her newfound confidence withstand the potential conflict? That question hovered like a shadow as they parted ways for the day, an unsettling tension skimming the surface of her thoughts. She anticipated the turmoil ahead but stood firm in her resolve. The time had come to confront not just the children's fears, but her own, the fear of what she might lose in the face of change. What would she choose when that confrontation arose? As Gloria settled back into her routine, the thrill of yesterday's interactions began to wear off, revealing a flickering uncertainty at her core. The challenge around the children's fears had ignited something within her, a dormant strength just awakening amidst a tide of conflicting emotions. Yet, with every step she took towards nurturing their growth, her own sense of identity wavered. The next day at the Bentley household came too soon, her mind still racing with the implication of what challenging Thomas might entail. Once again, as she entered the familiar space filled with laughter, she felt the intermingling of dread and hope. Each child greeted her with eager eyes, their buoyancy contrasting sharply with her lingering tension. "Miss Gloria, what's our next step?" Mason's voice broke through her thoughts, a simple question layered with expectations. Underneath their innocence rested a profound trust that seemed almost monumental at times, and she felt the weight of it settle squarely on her shoulders. "We'll be focusing on our goals today," she announced, determination filling her tone. "Let's take those fears we shared and break them down into smaller, achievable steps." As she spoke, the children nodded vigorously, cooking up excitement in their chatter. But behind her confident facade, Gloria was barely holding it together. As the session unfolded, Gloria facilitated a discussion about personal goals, and the children blossomed with ideas. A series of mini-challenges emerged. Ava resolved to invite a classmate she barely knew to play, while Ethan decided to showcase his artwork in front of friends, a step into uncharted social territory. Each response invigorated Gloria's spirits, yet underneath lingered an uninvited concern. Could they actually achieve these feats? And what if she failed to guide them properly? Deep down, these questions niggled at her, serving as reminders of her inexperience in leading and mentoring. Prompted by the natural enthusiasm around her, Gloria decided to set the stakes higher. She would not only support them but participate in their goals as well. If the children were to confront their fears, so too would she challenge her insecurities. What if I share a goal too? She ventured aloud, the words hanging thick in the air. You should, shouted Ava, her eyes sparkling with encouragement. I want to confront my fear of confrontation, Gloria admitted. Maybe I'll start by speaking honestly with Thomas about how I feel. The room pulsated with silence as the children processed her revelation. Who knew the complexities of being an adult could mirror their struggles? Ethan, perceptive as ever, broke the silence, his voice soft yet confident. If it helps, I can come with you, Ms. Gloria. Feeling the warmth of their support, her heart swelled. I truly appreciate that, Ethan. But this is something I need to navigate on my own. Yet the idea of walking into that conversation alone sparked a familiar sense of anxiety. The children rallied around her with words of encouragement, a mantra of support echoing in the humble living space. Gloria felt fortified by their kindness, yet the impending conversation with Thomas looming on the horizon cast a shadow over her newfound resolve. At that moment, she realized this journey of mutual growth was not merely about fostering the children's courage, it was a mirror reflecting her own. As they excitedly elaborated on how they planned to support one another, Gloria pondered if they would ever perceive that her fears were just as valid. Days passed quickly, and as the end of the week approached, the prospect of meeting Thomas to discuss her evolving role weighed heavily. Each evening, Gloria practiced in front of the mirror, grappling with every potential response he might have. She felt herself teetering on the edge of something pivotal, the air thick with unsaid words and tightly coiled emotions. Just before the weekend came, an unexpected message from Thomas disrupted her preparations, a request to meet in person. As she stared at her phone, heart racing, the urgency of her internal battle crystallized. This was it. What truths would she unveil when he inevitably challenged her? Would she retreat into doubt, or would she seize the moment, armed with determination forged in the fires of her fears? The time for decisions arrived with a reckoning that tested her resolve to its very limits. Anxiety curled tightly within Gloria's chest as she made her way to the cafe where the meeting with Thomas was set. Each step felt monumental, an ascent toward an uncharted peak brimming with possibility and peril. She glanced at her reflection in the glass storefronts, searching for the composed mentor she desperately wanted to project. What stared back was a woman caught in a storm of self-doubt despite the facade she tried to maintain. What would he think when confronted with her admission? Would he regard her as weak? Would he dismiss her? The scenarios gnawed at her as she ordered her usual coffee, fidgeting with the cup while the barista smiled. She focused only on mundane details: how the coffee smelled, the warmth of the cup in her hands as a makeshift shield against the tide of her uncertainty. Arriving at their chosen table, her heart raced. The casual buzz of pre-afternoon chatter faded into a dull thrum. Thomas arrived moments later, his presence both commanding and intimidating. He approached with a smile that barely reached his eyes, and Gloria's resolve began to falter as the gravity of the conversation settled in. "Hello, Gloria," he said, taking a seat across from her. "Thanks for meeting me on such short notice." She forced a smile, battling the instinct to retreat into her thoughts. "Of course. I appreciate you reaching out." The words felt too rehearsed, too thin to mask the swells of tension coursing through her. "Let's get straight to it. I've noticed some changes in your interactions with the kids," he began, his tone serious but not unkind. "They seem more engaged and open. It's impressive." His praise should have felt empowering, but it only amplified her anxiety. She needed to seize the moment. "Thank you. It's been a journey for all of us," Gloria replied cautiously, her mind wrestling between wanting to express her concerns and the dread of being misunderstood. "But, that's actually part of why I wanted to talk to you." "Go on," he prompted, leaning forward slightly, which both encouraged and intimidated her. Gloria took a deep breath, her heart hammering in her chest. "I feel like I'm not just guiding them, it's also forcing me to confront my fears. I want to tackle my limitations head-on, and I need your support in this." She felt a rush of adrenaline as the words spilled out, yet her heart raced with the very real possibility of backlash. Your limitations. Thomas raised an eyebrow, curiosity mingled with skepticism. What do you mean? I want to be open about my commitment to their growth, but I also realize I need to communicate more effectively. I'm afraid of confrontation, she admitted, the admission almost painful on her tongue. I believe honest communication is key, but I worry I lack the skills to navigate these relationships without jeopardizing the trust we've built. He rested back in his chair, processing her words. That's a commendable realization, but being vulnerable takes courage. Why now? Because if I am to help them face their fears, I must do the same. It's harder than I thought, and I want to grow as a person within this role. The intensity of her feelings hung thick in the air, laden with the tension of possible rejection. For a moment, silence enveloped them. Gloria's resolve wavered, battling the urge to withdraw her statements and retreat behind the mask of professionalism. Thomas finally broke the stillness. Gloria, this is a significant step. I can support you, but we need to be clear with each other. I'll challenge you, and at times, I'll expect you to lead. Relief mixed with apprehension flooded her, balancing precariously. Would she evolve beyond her confines? I'm ready to embrace that challenge, she declared, finding newfound strength in her voice. Yet the fear of the unknown was still there, whispering doubts she tried to silence. Good, he replied, his tone calming. We'll start setting goals for your development, just like with the children. The more you practice, the more natural this will become for you. As the conversation continued, Gloria realized that she was on the cusp of a profound transformation, one that mirrored the journey she was guiding the children through. The idea of shared vulnerability now felt like an intricate web tying them together, rather than isolating them. As they wrapped up, she sensed the burgeoning possibility of a bond forged from honesty between mentor and student. Although the path ahead was lit with uncertainties, their shared commitment to growth invigorated her. Gloria left the cafe with determination coursing through her veins, ready to not only confront her own obstacles but equipped with the strategies he would help her develop. But as the evening drew near, she had yet to fathom the real challenges that lay ahead, sparks of conflict rising where growth and resistance crisscrossed, and yet, as she gazed back at the cafe through the reflective glass, she wondered, was she truly ready for what lay ahead, or was she merely standing at the edge of a precipice, poised to leap into a tumultuous unknown? The air outside felt surprisingly fresher, invigorating Gloria's senses as she walked down the street. Despite the swirl of anxiety still gripping her, the conversation with Thomas had ignited a flicker of hope. She replayed his words in her mind, letting them stir something within her that had long been dormant. Perhaps she could shift from simply managing fear to confronting it. In the days that followed, every interaction with the children became a mini-experiment in her commitment to growth. She employed the tools Thomas had suggested, she prepared for conversations, anticipated conflict, and practiced articulating her thoughts. But no matter how much planning she did, the fear clung to her like a shadow. Each encounter boiled down to a split second where she had to make a choice, reveal herself or revert back into the safety of silence. On one particular afternoon, while helping a group of kids with art projects, she crossed paths with Liam, a boy known for his explosive temperament. He was struggling with a collage assignment and, as she approached, Gloria could feel the storm brewing inside him. A part of her wanted to ease his frustration and suggest he start over, but she knew that would only prolong the cycle of retreat into anger. "Hey, Liam, you seem really stuck," she said, her voice steady despite the rapid beating of her heart. "What do you think is holding you back?" He glanced at her, disbelief written across his features, his pencil tapping angrily on the table. "It's just dumb. It doesn't work," he muttered, his eyes simmering with resentment. "Can I help you with the dumb part?" she asked, leaning in just a little. It was a calculated risk. She could either reinforce his frustration or open a door to authentic dialogue. Liam paused, taken aback. "What do you care?" "I care because I want you to express what you feel," she replied. "Sometimes the pieces can look messy before they become something truly wonderful. Why don't we try to figure it out together?" The challenge hung in the air, and for a heartbeat, she could almost hear her doubts screaming. But the grip of that anxiety loosened as she watched him take a deep breath, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. "I just want it to look good," he admitted, and there was a hint of vulnerability beneath his bravado. "That's understandable. But what does good look like to you?" Another moment of hesitance flickered across Liam's face, but he seemed to genuinely ponder the question. Gloria felt her heart rate calm slightly. She was striving to model an approach she wished she had during her own times of conflict. As he began to articulate his vision, the conversation transitioned from frustration into a collaborative endeavor. They played with colors, tore paper, and made mistakes, all without the fear of judgment. Each laugh they shared felt like another thread weaving them closer. By the time the session ended, a profound change had lingered in the air. Gloria observed the shift in Liam. Not only had he been more engaged, but his willingness to open up reminded her of the power of shared vulnerability. It was in that moment she realized that her own battles with anxiety served as a bridge, allowing her to connect with the children on a deeper level than she had anticipated. Despite this small victory, as she left the center, the question loomed larger. While she was learning to communicate authentically, would she be able to handle the inevitable pushback from others who may not understand her newfound approach? The uncertainty clawed at her, but the sound of laughter and creativity from inside the center echoed in her mind, urging her onward. Maybe in the act of confronting her truths, she was not just changing the lives of those kids, perhaps they were instilling new strengths within her as well. As she turned the corner, the weight of impending challenges loomed large, a realization that while she had progressed, she was just beginning to scratch the surface of perseverance. Would her courage hold when faced with the real antagonists, a world that often resisted change, a future filled with unanswered questions, and a self poised on the brink of evolution? As the days turned into weeks, Gloria found herself engulfed in a cycle of breakthrough and retreat. The exhilaration she felt during those genuine moments with children like Liam was often shadowed by the fear of what lay outside those fleeting interactions. Each encounter served as a reminder of how much she could offer, but also of the silent weight of external expectations pressing against her newfound resolve. One afternoon, she caught a glimpse of herself in the reflection of a nearby shop window, not the timid version she had always recognized, but a spirited woman whose posture seemed taller, her expression softened by uncertainty yet undeniably fiercer. That small act of engaging with Liam lingered beneath her skin, it rippled outward in every interaction that followed. The week brought new challenges, amplifying her determination to apply the lessons she gleaned from Thomas as her beacon. She accepted an invitation to speak at a small workshop for other volunteers, an opportunity cloaked in both excitement and trepidation. The thought of addressing a group felt dangerously overwhelming, her stomach churning at the idea of vulnerability under scrutiny. But she grasped at the tattered remnants of courage, confronting her dread as she prepared notes filled with insights drawn from her experiences with the children. On the day of the workshop, Gloria entered the small conference room, the air thick with anticipation and an undercurrent of skepticism. The space was a melange of eager faces and a few folded arms, all awaiting the voice of someone they could relate to. A tangle of thoughts raced through her mind. Who was she to stand there? What if they saw through her pretense and dismissed her? Almost instinctively, she willed herself to remember the laughs and small victories she experienced with the children. As she began speaking, her voice trembled, yet she felt the warmth enveloping her like a protective cocoon. She shared stories of frustrations that transformed into laughter, the sparks of understanding igniting amid chaos. Encouraged by the flickers of recognition she saw in the audience, she leaned deeper into her truth. But just as she felt a rush of clarity, a familiar shadow loomed. A fellow volunteer with a track record of success challenged her methods, scoffing at her emphasis on vulnerability. "Kids need structure," he insisted, eyes narrowing with skepticism. "What if you're enabling weakness?" With the room still, every heartbeat felt amplified. Gloria inhaled sharply, grounding herself as visions of Liam battling his frustrations surged within her. And what if vulnerability begets strength? Her voice was steadier now, the words flowing like a stream that swelled with conviction. "I've learned that allowing children to express their fears can transform their anger into creativity. They learn resilience through exploring their feelings, not suppressing them. The tension in the room was palpable, and for a moment, doubt threatened to fill the silence, echoing back to her. Could she withstand this wave of pushback? Was she prepared for the rejection that might follow her bold proclamation? As the workshop progressed, Gloria recognized that she must not only advocate for her beliefs but also prepare herself to defend them fiercely. The interaction with her skeptical colleague had ignited something within, an understanding that while her voice mattered, it required unwavering support from herself first. It was one thing to glean strength from her experiences, but another to believe that she deserved to be heard. When the session concluded, murmurs filled the room. Some participants approached, thanking her for her insights, others remained aloof, but that did not diminish her resolve. It dawned on her that acceptance would not always ring true, but vulnerability in her profession could forge unexpected paths. As she stepped out of the building, doubts about her worthiness lingered, yet they no longer loomed as ominously. The burgeoning strength within her urged her onward, pushing through the fog of uncertainty. The world outside still held mysteries, but she felt equipped to confront the challenges ahead. Before her stretched a path that promised immense potential but also daunting confrontations. Would she be able to face those who were resistant to change, including her own self-doubts, and connect with those who needed her insights the most? As her journey commenced anew, the question surfaced: what would she discover when the stakes were raised and authenticity was met with resistance? The days that followed the workshop were laden with a new intensity for Gloria. She awoke each morning, her mind swirling with thoughts about her interaction with the participants and the skepticism she had faced. Doubt sometimes whispered in her ear, suggesting she had made a fool of herself. Yet in the quiet of her early mornings, determination simmered just below the surface, urging her to harness the momentum from her presentation. Amidst her routine, she encountered another opportunity. Her supervisor asked if she'd be willing to lead a small group of volunteers tasked with brainstorming new activities for the children. At first, she hesitated. The prospect of guiding others felt daunting, coupled with the fear of falling short in her role. What if they questioned her decisions? What if she wasn't as capable as they expected? In the stillness of her thoughts, the image of Liam resurfaced. His laughter, the way he transformed his frustration into creative expression inspired by the activities she engineered. This memory illuminated the path ahead. What do I have to lose? She mused. The answer was nothing. Embracing this shift required her to confront not only the doubts cast by others but also her internal reservations. Armed with a newfound determination, she accepted the challenge. As she committed to the group, she felt an ember of hope ignite within her. They convened in a modest room filled with markers, flip charts, and an air thick with tentative enthusiasm. Gloria quickly grasped the subtle power dynamics at play among the volunteers. Some were outright eager to contribute, while others remained wary, keenly observing her authority. Recognizing the varying energy levels, Gloria took a deep breath, reminding herself of her own journey, then plunged into the meeting. Let us start by brainstorming ideas that resonate with our experiences. What did we wish for as children? Her voice trembled slightly, yet the conviction in her words fueled their engagement. Soon, suggestions flowed like water, and Gloria found her rhythm, steering the conversation towards creating emotional connection rather than sheer fun. The meeting was going exceptionally well until another volunteer, David, who had been quiet until then, interjected with his discontent. These activities sound great, but they need to be more focused. Kids thrive on structure. What you're suggesting seems too loose. Gloria's heart raced. This wasn't the first time she had encountered a challenge to her approach to vulnerability. She realized this was far more than a disagreement about activities, it was a clash of philosophies. The tension in the room mirrored her internal struggle. How could she articulate the value of emotional expression without dismissing the importance of structure? Taking a moment to gather her thoughts, she leaned into the discomfort. David, I appreciate your perspective, she began, meeting his gaze with steady resolve. But can we think about it this way? What if we create an emotional structure? One where kids feel safe to express themselves, which in turn can give them the boundaries they need. Isn't that a form of structure as well? The silence that followed was heavy. Gloria felt her heart beat louder in her ears as she processed every second that ticked by, unsure of whether she had made her point effectively or deepened the divide. She glanced around the room to gauge the group's reaction. A few expressions softened, signaling some shift in perception, while David's brow furrowed, still unyielding, understanding the vulnerability she encouraged in others also required her to embrace it for herself became crystal clear. She knew she had to navigate this with both grace and strength. The stakes had been raised, her authenticity was being confronted, but so was her steadfast pursuit of creating a safe space for the children. As the meeting continued, Gloria realized this was a pivotal moment not only for the group and the kids they served but for her own evolution. She was learning to navigate the complexities of leadership, balancing empathy with strength, and developing the conviction to stand by her principles, even in the face of resistance. As the group voted on the activity ideas, the outcome revealed a surprising result. Would they affirm her vision or retreat to the more traditional approaches that had always been comfortable? The anticipation buzzed around her like electricity, leaving her poised at the threshold of something transformative. Would she be able to embrace her role, fostering a new paradigm among her peers while simultaneously peeling layers off her own self-doubt? And as Gloria awaited the verdict, one thought crossed her mind: what might she discover about herself in the face of conflict? Gloria stood at the threshold of her new reality, the weight of her journey pressing heavily on her shoulders, yet somehow, she felt lighter. The pivotal meeting with Thomas had opened a door to her potential, revealing that vulnerability was not a sign of weakness but a source of strength. Each interaction with the Bentley children had illuminated a path she never thought she could walk, paved with determination, emotional honesty, and a commitment to mutual growth. That morning, Gloria had awoken with a renewed sense of purpose. She was ready to seize the day to transform her vision of mentorship into tangible action. As she stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her apron, she smiled at the reflection staring back. It was a woman imbued with confidence, grounded in experience, a stark contrast to the self-doubt that had once nestled deep within her. Arriving at the Bentley household, the familiar cadence of children's laughter swirled in the air. Today, she would unveil an initiative she had prepared, a group project that would encourage the children to channel their fears into creative expressions. The setup was simple yet impactful. Each child would create an art piece reflecting a personal fear, and then they would all present their creations, fostering dialogue about their experiences. "Good morning, Ms. Gloria," Ava chirped, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Morning, everyone," Gloria responded, her voice teeming with enthusiasm. "Today, we're going to work on something special. We'll be turning our fears into art." As Gloria explained the activity, she observed the children's faces lighting up, their skepticism melting away and morphing into curious intrigue. This was the moment where she would reinforce their bond through shared vulnerability, the very essence of their pact. As they gathered their supplies, Gloria felt exhilaration bubbling inside her. With each child, she saw not just their fears, but the potential for resilience and growth, a tapestry woven together through unveiling their innermost struggles. Throughout the activity, Gloria engaged with each child, her heart swelling as Mason, usually reserved, began to share the story behind his creation, a dramatic depiction of drowning in shadows, a representation of his fear of being overshadowed. In that moment, a deep connection resonated. Gloria began to encapsulate how every stroke of paint carried more than color, it carried hope, courage, and understanding. When the time came for them to share, Gloria leaned in, her pulse thrumming with anticipation. One by one, the children unveiled their pieces, articulating the intricacies of fear, the battles they fought, and ultimately, the strength forged through these vulnerabilities. "I painted this because I'm scared I'll never be enough," Ava confessed, her small voice resonating with honesty. Gloria nodded, her heart experiencing a pang of recognition. "You are enough, Ava. This is a beautiful expression of your heart." The fear-sharing circle they had initiated merged with each brushstroke, allowing each child to feel seen and heard, something Gloria had yearned for her own self. It became clear that embracing emotional authenticity was the bridge to empowerment. Once the activity concluded, a wave of exhilaration filled the air, the transformation was palpable, their connection deepened by the shared experience. As they lingered, Gloria caught a glimpse of their reflections in the sunlit window, a group of children empowered by their fears, strengthened by their ability to express vulnerability. That evening, as she tucked Jamia into bed, her daughter's eyes sparkled with admiration. "Mom, you're amazing. Everyone loves you in their family." Gloria felt a warmth swell within her, a sense of fulfillment blossoming in her soul. It was proof that she had conquered not just her insecurities but also paved the way for others to confront their own. The next morning, the sunlight streamed through her kitchen window, illuminating her workspace, and in that moment, Gloria decided to take her newfound confidence a step further. She reached for her notebook, outlining plans for a mentorship program that would connect youth with mentors, intuitive educators who would focus on emotional and creative expression. At the program launch meeting, Thomas sat across from her, pride emanating from his expression. "Gloria, this is impressive. You've created something meaningful." Her heart swelled with satisfaction as she shared her vision, a program that would empower children, not just through structure, but through understanding their emotions. "This is where I belong," Gloria thought. She had proven to herself that she could lead, inspire, and support. She had triumphed over her fears and transformed them into a beacon of hope for others. As she left the meeting, Gloria felt a profound sense of accomplishment wash over her. She had not only established herself as a competent leader within her community but had also ignited a flame of powerful change. Gloria reflected on her journey, how she had once doubted her worth, but now stood proud and tall, equipped to embrace her role as a mentor, mother, and leader. She had emerged not just as a caretaker but as a force for empowerment, an unwavering voice for those who sought to grow beyond their fears. This was not just the end of a chapter, it was the beginning of an inspiring legacy. A legacy that proved that even the smallest acts of courage could catalyze magnificent transformations, and with a heart full of pride, she stepped into the next adventure, strong, confident, and ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. Now, it's your turn to manifest your growth. You need to subscribe now to catch the next exclusive emotional stories and witness the transformative journeys that unfold. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes a difference. Comment below with your thoughts and reactions about Gloria's journey and share your own triumphs. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Spread the empowerment.